r/AskReddit by Redmond Dts. When did the school bully get what they deserved? He sucker punched a handicapped kid, and the entire hallway full of kids jumped him in unison. It was the only time I saw everyone agree on one thing in school. He picked on this one smaller kid near the kid's locker. The smaller kid hit him across the head with his combination lock. There was a lot of blood and blubbering. Oddly enough, he tried to beat up the smaller kid a second time in shop class. This time the kid took it by 4 to the bully's shins. He left the kid alone after that. He wasn't really that successful at bullying, though it wasn't for lack of trying. We both applied to the same college. I got in, she didn't. I made sure she knew I was turning that school down to go to a different one. He kept on messing with this skinny kid in my class. He is about my height and weight, and one day, the kid had enough, so he picked the dude up and body slammed him to the ground. It turns out that he is actually a black belt, and he was in boxing as well. Meanwhile, the bully was just one of those average football jocks. When their dad got knocked out by the geography teacher. True story. Apparently he moved to Sweden, got married, had a kid. Marriage went south, so he asked to meet the wife at the top of a parking garage while their kid was at a soccer practice in a field below. He then stabbed her 30+ times to death and is spending the rest of his life in prison. She spent all of junior year spreading rumors that I was poor because I always brought lunch from home. Found out later she got rejected from her dream college because she spent too much time bullying people instead of studying. Meanwhile, my sad packed lunches helped my parents save enough for my full college tuition. One of mine died in prison. Others are old, fat and broken down from working too hard for too little money. This particular bully once pushed me across the school bus seat hard enough that I cracked a window because I had the nerve to sit in the aisle seat he wanted. And somehow it was both of our faults because I refused to move when he demanded it, and our parents had to split the repair cost. 10+ years after high school, I've got a successful career and had just bought my first home in a very walkable part of town. That said, the nearest liquor store is a bit of a dump, but hey, it's well stocked. I go there to buy some beer, and guess who's working the checkout counter? Yep, him. Given how long ago this was, I'm polite and pleasant to him. Especially when he asks me how I've been, and I say, doing great. Graduated from college, my job is great, and I just bought a new house a few blocks down the road. How are you doing? I don't remember his response, but I know he avoided eye contact afterwards. Living well is the best revenge. When I beat her ass. I went to school counseling with her, did so many bully interventions, and still no progress with her. The day before, she made fun of a sweet little girl that I stood up for, and we got in trouble. I threatened her, and we had an argument. The next day, she slaps me hard for no reason. Joke was on her because I had experience fighting my boy cousins. She got wrecked and didn't show up to school for a week. The most vicious fights I remember from school were always between girls. We had one girl in our grade who would talk mad shit about everybody. Well, an upperclassmen cheerleader heard about this, confronted her at her locker between classes, and kicked her in the face while they were both standing. 3 times. It was amazing. They were friends too, even afterwards. I had a kid who would follow me home, pushing me every few steps. I was a big weenie, so he thought he could get away with it. Day 2 of this, I waited until we were alone. He went in for a push, and I grabbed him and sort of did what my 5th grade brain imagined a headlock to be. Then I walked him around like that for a couple minutes, pushed him over, and spit on him. He avoided me after that. Spitting on someone is always a devastating finishing move. To their ego at least. Early 90s high school, one kid was always getting picked on being effeminate. Senior year in a science class, He finally had enough from one of his biggest tormentors, and they got physical. Teacher finally broke it up after the bully got his face slammed on one of those stone lab tables. Don't know what happened to the bully, but years later, we saw the other kid in the audience of Jenny Jones or Ricky Lake, apparently out and proud, and having a good life. The guy was just a big lumbering oaf of a bloke, who I had gotten on with okay, until our final test in college. The lecturer left the room briefly, and this bloke just stood up, looked at my answers and said, "Oh right, I didn't know that one," and copied my answer. Me being the little dickhead just leant across and scribbled across his page. He stood up and hit me so hard I had concussion on both sides of my skull. One side from where he hit me, and the other side from where my head hit the table so hard. I finished my test and excused myself to pass out unconscious in a hallway hiding under some stairs. I think my fight or flight kicked in a little late. The guy got banned from the college for life, criminal charges for assault, and lost his job too, as we are all apprentices for different engineering companies doing our first year together. This is where I feel bad. Whilst having x-rays for concussion, an x-ray tech noticed a dark mass, and it turns out I had a significant tumor of the pituitary gland, so he kind of saved my life. I've always said, if I win the lottery, I will sort him out for saving my life. He picked a fight with a smaller kid, who was built like a fire plug, and on the wrestling team. It did not end well for him. Happened right in front of my lunch table by the tray drop-off. Dude actually stabbed the wrestler in the head with a fork, which bent and only pissed him off. Wrestler picked the guy up and slammed him, then did it again. He hit that boy with a planet, twice. Mine died of pancreatic cancer. He also was in jail for a while, for kidnapping an underage girl and assaulting her. This was in the late 90s. Not a huge bully, but not a huge karma either. I was in orchestra in high school, and we had this one really mean girl. Thought she was better than everyone else. Would mock us. Would laugh as her boyfriend would knock over your music stand while you were trying to practice. Told everyone she was going to be a world famous violinist. Junior year she was second chair, because our first chair was a senior, who was so good she was hired to play private events. Senior graduated, and little miss all that thought she'd get first chair. Nope, we had an absolute prodigy transfer in from the local music magnet school. Played 6 instruments, and composed, and got told she could only keep one, and kept violin. So stayed second chair. No matter, she's still brilliant, bragged to everyone she was going to audition for Juilliard and go there. A local state college actually has a really well-known music college, but that was for peons. She was going to New York City. Ran into her 5 years later, working retail at a local craft store. Largely pregnant with kid number 3. Crappy high school boyfriend knocked her up just after graduation, and she didn't get to go to college at all. Plus poor thing was stuck actually living with him, and given how abusive he was to anybody else around him, that couldn't be fun. Asked if she still played for fun, but said she hadn't touched an instrument in years. Actually felt sorry for her. More now than I did at the time, but even then I realized she'd messed up her life with that douche. She actually was a good violinist. Probably not Juilliard, but definitely local music college and a major city orchestra level with practice. It was a long time coming for her, but she got stranded at the fire festival. He works for a used car salesman, selling lemon vehicles to unsuspecting old ladies, lives in a dilapidated RV with 3 nasty kids, and a fat homely wife, who bosses him around. He lost his hair by age 30, has a belly that rivals Santa, and looks about 20 years older than the rest of us. He would always pick on a heavy-set girl, and one day she snapped. She gave him a few good gut punches, and a swift kick in the nuts. She was in the process of trying to stuff him into a locker when a teacher came and broke everything up. He never ever lived it down. New kid thought he was a shit, kept bullying anyone and everyone. Messed with the wrong kid, they fought. Ended up with a broken jaw and having to move schools again. Typical loudmouth redneck dumbass picked a fight with a foreign kid who was new to the high school. Turns out the kid was an orphaned street kid from some Central American shithole and could fight like nothing we had ever seen. Needless to say, nobody ever messed with him again. I had a bully in elementary school. He was bigger than me, so I couldn't fight him. One morning in my early 20s I went to take my car to the dealer to get it washed, and I handed the attendant my keys without noticing. It was my bully. This could have been a moment for me to be a complete ass and get my revenge, but I smiled and chatted with him for a bit. He was working on an apprenticeship to become a mechanic at the car dealer. The best revenge is living well, but it's even better when you meet adversaries with humility and kindness. Elementary school bully. He's in prison for 28 years for raping a child. This may come across as dark. The kid that used to bully me relentlessly, picking on me until I lost my cool and got in trouble, but he was never punished. I hated him with a burning passion. Early in his adulthood, he was stricken by grand mal seizures, and now he lives in a wheelchair. I guess we could argue that he didn't deserve it, but you'll never convince 10-year-old me. One day it reached the tipping point, and I smacked him in the face so hard, he went to ground crying like a baby in front of the whole class. I didn't even realize what I did, it just all went on autopilot mode, because I was so stressed and on edge from months of consistent bullying. Never been bullied from that day, and the douchebag also stopped bullying others. I was then pondering why it took me so long to realize these people only understand one kind of message. Died of alcohol poisoning less than a year after graduation. His friends left him dead on a park bench. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more. Have a nice evening. Tell your friends about me.